Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we're going to be diving into the world of Cardano and specifically talking about the price action of ADA. Today is the day of the Cardano summit, so we are expecting to see some interesting volatility for ADA. I reckon we'll see pumps and dumps during the course of the day, and depending on what kind of announcements are made at the summit, could be some interesting price discovery for ADA. Guys, as we get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. Right, with that said, done and out of the way, let's dive down into this technical analysis on ADA and see exactly what's going on. We can obviously see that this is the weekly chart. We obviously like to start here to give us that overall structure with nice, good push to the upside. Everything kick-started back in March of 2020. Peaked up with wave 1 at around July time of 2020. We really kind of bottomed out. We did a sideways trade down here pretty much from July all the way through until late November, where things really started to heat up. We went into the new year in a really strong way, peaked up with wave 3 up here in the 10th of May before we went down into wave 4. Wave 4 was a triple tap at the bottom. You can see one here down in May, hit the same area again in June, same area in July, and then we were off to the races, setting a new all-time high, and obviously the recent pullback that we've seen just here. Now, this recent pullback again has another triple tap. We can see that there was a tap down on the 618 area on the 16th of, or week commencing the 16th of August. We can see one at the beginning of September and one this week. This is now lining up for another big push to the upside. We could take a look at the stochastic. It has obviously pulled back a little bit in the recent light of Bitcoin's volatility, and of course everything that has been going on with some FUD around China, and of course Evergrande as well. We can also see that we were oversold during the bottom of March 2020 before everything really started up really strongly. We can see that we were oversold during wave 2. We were overbought at the peak of wave 1, and of course we were overbought in wave 3 as well, right? So it's fantastic to see that. And so our expectation is to push up in a very significant way. The other thing that we can see here on this weekly chart, and let me just get rid of this for a second and just zoom in, is obviously the price expectations and price discovery. Now over here we do have what is forming a cup and handle. Okay, the cup and handle has some pretty interesting kind of price spikes with it. I'm going to go through my price expectations in another video when I have a little bit more time for the month of October, but things are looking pretty interesting with a cup and handle pattern forming. We could be in for a very good October. Now overall everything's lining up nicely. We do have a Fibonacci retracement tool on our daily, so let's jump into that and just talk through what our price expectations are. So taking into consideration the current performance, so you know, top of 3, the bottom of 4. This actually shows us at about $7.22. I've got to bear in mind, though, this is all historical data. It shows us speculation on things like smart contracts and not the actual execution of them. And now we obviously do have smart contracts, and they have actually launched on the mainnet. We're starting to see dApps getting built. What does this actually mean? This is where things are going to get interesting. They could blast all the way through this $7.22. If not, this is where my expectations are for pretty much this bull run. If the current performance is anything to go by, this is where we're likely to end up. Okay, timing is always the hardest thing, but I do think this is likely to happen by the end of the year or beginning of 2022. Overall, the current performance could be something that's completely void when we take into consideration transactional volume and everything that's going on the Cardano ecosystem as a whole. From there, we could, of course, push up much higher. So I'm going to be conservative and say the $7.22 is a nice area to be aiming for. And we have spoken about $10 previously on the channel, as it's a nice overextension on this 4.236. That is something that also could occur with some push from transactional volume and some dApps that are being built on the ecosystem. Overall, everything's looking pretty good for Cardano. We can see that we were oversold most recently during this recent correction down here, and we started to push back to the upside in the overbought area. If I actually just undo that for a second, overall we can see that we were overbought on this push to the upside over here. We're up here for quite some time, so again we'll be looking for trying to do something very similar to that right now in this area just down here. So overall, this daily chart is looking pretty good in terms of, you know, price expectations and the current performance. Now, when we actually take a look at what's been going on most recently over here on our daily side, we can see that we are up for some interesting zones. So we obviously lost our support line here. And again, it's something that was pretty obvious to occur during everything that was going on with Bitcoin, etc. Evergrade. Now there is this downward trend, right? And we're pushing against this right now. So it'd be interesting to see if we actually break this downward trend altogether, right? And I do anticipate that that is something that we are likely to see. We obviously have passed the 7886 area, and we are pushing up to the previous all-time high. That was the top of wave 3 at $2.46, I believe it was. Let me check. Yeah, $2.47, sorry. So $2.47 was the previous high. And from here, we are looking to continue that push to the upside. Now, obviously, the daily has plenty of room to continue this growth, but we'll have to check to see what is going on the hourly in a moment. So overall, everything's looking pretty good, right? Really testing this upper area. We could see rejection from this zone, and if we do, then obviously we should be concerned over that. But for now, everything's looking pretty interesting. If I grab a whole Fibonacci retracement tool here, and I throw it in from there to here, again, what we're doing is we're actually pushing up against the 50% retracement area right now. We haven't even gotten to the 6186702 or 786 area over here. This is going to be the real main area that we want to see us kind of pass through to say that we are not looking to slip down again. But I am still expecting volatility, guys. Even though we have the Cardano summit, it's going to be quite difficult to kind of say that for sure, you know, with everything that's going on with Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto space, that we are going to just push straight up with some fantastic news. I would be expecting some volatility. We might see it go up and down during the course of the day quite rapidly as people are speculating on what's going on, people are selling the news, and all of these various different things that are occurring. Ultimately, until we're kind of through some of the next kind of major key points for the entire crypto space, Bitcoin specifically, get through September and move on to the upside overall, it's going to be hard to say for sure that we are likely. But I'm looking at these key areas, right? So for me personally, I am going to be taking a look at $2.46. I'm going to be taking a look at the key area of $2.53 and $2.61. I want to see a closed candle up here on the daily. That'll be a really strong signal to take us out of this this slump that we've been in recently. Okay, so at this point we're going to load up the advice.io dashboard, and here we're going to take a look at the underlying data to see whether or not there's anything that we should be concerned about. So the artificial intelligence machine learning of advice.io does update every single day. And here we'll be able to see whether or not the AI has found any issues, right? So taking a look at Cardano, we're a B2 rating overall. No problems have been highlighted so far. The Fear and Greed Index is still extremely fearful with a C3 rating. So we have to be mindful that there's a lot of fear in the space for Cardano. So I would be expecting the sell the news scenario, or if something were to happen to Bitcoin, I would expect that Cardano would also follow suit, even if there is some fantastic news and some fantastic partnerships. The sentiment in the market just isn't quite where it needs to be just yet. The moving averages have been affected by the recent trading activity, which is understandable. So again, that's a C2 rating. But then we get a little bit more interesting when we come down to these lower areas. We can see that the AMI-HAD ratio is an A2, so there's no problems with liquidity. We can see the profitability is up here at an A1, the best rating that you can get from an ROI perspective. And the Sharpe ratio is an A2, right? And the Sharpe ratio is a really interesting metric because this one is your risk reward ratio, right? So the risk holding ADA versus the reward of holding ADA. So this is actually indicating that actually it's pretty good idea to maybe be holding ADA, right? So the artificial intelligence at this point of view has basically said there's fear in the space, right? It's hard to ignore the fact that there is fear in the space. People are acting emotionally, and we can see that the moving averages have been affected. But other than those two metrics, everything else is like perfect, right? We've got really good liquidity, we've got really good returns on investment, and the risk versus reward ratio is in our favor to say that actually it's better to be holding ADA than it is not to be holding ADA. So overall, everything on the chart data here from the artificial intelligence machine learning delivered to us in an unbiased way is actually coming up Cardano, and it's saying you should be mindful, do expect some volatility because of the emotions that are in the space. But other than that, it's actually saying, you know, long term, I think you're in a pretty good position. That's how I interpret the data. So overall, everything on Cardano from that kind of perspective is looking really good. The daily is looking pretty good. Good recovery so far. A little bit of volatility. We saw some yesterday. We've seen some today, no doubt. When we jump down into our hourly, what are we going to expect to happen next? Well, we should expect to see some kind of small pullback because we are in the overbought area. So although we can be up here for quite some time, we should be looking for a pullback or a cool down. It doesn't have to be a huge step back, but we can obviously see the previous area of resistance here has turned into a support line. So if we continue to kind of just ride this line up, we can come back down to this area and get this momentum taken out of our stochastic, so allow us to grow back to the upside, break our trend line, and then set a new trend going further forward. That would be an ideal scenario, but I would be expecting to see some volatility. We are going to get hopefully stuck into a triangular wedge just up here, and in doing so, we could see a break to the upside. Likewise, though, with everything that's going on, if Bitcoin doesn't behave, we could see a break to the downside as well. So I'm still expecting volatility. I don't think we're through the worst of September just yet. But with that being said, I think with some fantastic news and some sentiment changes in the space, we could see a good long-term push. And like I said before, right, I am expecting October to be a really good month. I will do a whole video dedicated to my expectations on October and where I do see things going. But for now, I'm going to leave the analysis there. Do expect volatility on the smaller time frames, but things are definitely heating up. I do anticipate some fantastic announcements today. We are going to be at the summit. We are going to be streaming and putting out some snippets of what is going on at the summit as we are there. If you're in the UK, do check it out. Come down to London. Make sure you've registered and join us and say hello. We'd love to meet you guys as well. And with all that said, done and out of the way, guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and we will catch you all in the next one.